All right, folks, take a quick look here at SUI and just double check a few important things. We're going to look at the macro structure, just some key level supports and resistances. That's mainly what these white lines are here. These are actually lower time frames. So we're going to confirm that as well as looking at some backend data and quickly compare this on the side here with Bitcoin, of course. Quickly, though, just for my community, so you know, we just launched a $50,000 USDT prize pool with Bitunix here. Using my link to register, you'll be eligible for those benefits. It's a pretty awesome collective prize pool here, basically just, based on volume. And our traders are high volume traders, so it'll be easier for us to achieve some of these goals here. So be sure to check that out. Link down below. Obviously, make sure you you let me know if you want to join our community too. We do actually have a benefit right now in for the 25 days of Christmas. So it's a good sale that I have as well. There's only about 21 slots left available. Okay, so just kind of a heads up on that. And before we jump in though too, let's go ahead and look at the backend data to kind of get some perspective on SUI and see where we're at. Because the important thing is to recognize these areas of open interest and obviously liquidation, how it's relevant to the price action. Because most people just kind of go through trading without understanding these things. And I think it's really important to know that. So 160 to 155 is that lower area of open interest that shows or emphasizes support at that previous high range. So when you see open interest at previous highs, it tells us there's more support or more desirability there. So it does work like a magnet in a lot of ways because the price will be pulled towards those levels. But once it is, it'll be swept up here or, so to speak, consumed. People will want to buy more at that level, right? Once more, open interest kind of speaks for itself in a way. When we look at liquidation delta, it is tapering off, but also moderately bullish. So that's generally a good sign of strength. But it is tapering off consistent with, in some ways with Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is overextended. So we want to pay attention to how poorly or better, or how much better, of course, SUI is performing versus Bitcoin. Okay, let's quickly look at this side-by-side comparison. But before we do so, I want to just kind of recognize 160 to 150 is kind of that lower area of liquidation. We're a little closer to that, so that makes more sense to hit that. That's only the last 7 days worth of liquidation. And if we zoom in a little bit further, we'll probably see a little bit more of a clearer picture here that there is more liquidation locally than below than above. So once more, the probability of seeing a sweep of 150 to 160 is very realistic at this point, just based on how two things, based on how poorly SUI is doing versus Bitcoin on the last 24 to 48 hours. You can see roughly last 2 to 3 days worth of trading, we just seen a pretty consistent divergence. Now keep in mind that can lead to overextension, and this does look pretty much like a rising wedge pattern, or sorry, falling wedge pattern, which is actually bullish, believe it or not, because it kind of works itself into a descending trend into that support. So I'm not proposing at this point at all that SUI is going to just continue lower tremendously. But when you look at the current price action here for Bitcoin, and you side by side these, there is definitely a worse performing price action than the previous 48 to 72 hours. So that just kind of makes me kind of a little timid and wanting to take along just yet. And generally speaking, when I see that happen, I want to look for previous highs retested as new lows, which hasn't happened yet. So if you look at this previous high range, we spent a lot of time at 158 before the price inevitably broke out after this tomfoolery, right? But generally speaking, we haven't retested this level yet. So oftentimes these levels will work as support levels, right? It's just more of a statistical probability. It's not a guarantee, but it is certainly something to pay attention to. The problem here is that we have so much fair value below the price that makes me apprehensive to even want to consider along 158. What happens if Bitcoin hits 88,000 or lower? Then I think we're in a pretty bad place for SUI, regardless of how strong and well it did and recovered recently. Okay, so just be mindful of that. Market makers really want to trick you into this false sense of security. So taking along at the top at 175 into that key level resistance range we've identified previously really isn't a good idea. Hindsight's 2020. I totally get it. It's never an exact science. But at this point here, you're better off waiting for a trade that doesn't happen at 160 versus taking along right now and getting destroyed on the way down. I would recommend not shorting, even though it's very probable we're going to see a bit more of a divergence on this coin based on overextension and just a lot of contributing factors we've already identified. Just because it's inherently more risky right now to short based on a lot of coins establishing higher highs and higher lows, right? We're shifting bullish in the market, but we haven't done so yet. When that shift occurs, the best thing to do is to trade less, right? That's the concept. So if you're going to do this, then once we see the short-term trend is more so bullish, wait for those bullish back tests. Don't try to take a ton of shorts into it. Some coins, and now I'm not one to talk, we have a Bitcoin and a Solana short open right now. Okay, so the truth is, certain coins have more propensity than others to move, but SUI is a very, very strong coin to the upside mostly. And generally speaking, every time I try to short it, it goes the opposite direction. Okay, I'm about 50% success rate on SUI, and to give you perspective, I trade maybe 80, 85% on average. Right? So there's something to it, right? Shorting SUI is just not generally a good call. It's inherently more risky to short this coin. So while I still feel there's further downside, yes, I do think that 160 tentatively is a good range to consider averaging into a long. That's going to require Bitcoin, of course, to hit the 91 to 90K range. And if you're not familiar with my thoughts already, check out my Bitcoin video. I am leaning more towards Bitcoin pulling back on the short term. I've been kind of speaking that for the last couple of days, and I think we're starting to hit that transition. We'll see here in a little bit, but at this point, thanks so much again for watching, being an amazing part of my life. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.